Hey everybody, Gary Hydrick here for this week's Fishing Chums Fishing Report. Boy, do we have a dandy for you today. One, it's a beautiful weekend, weather-wise. Can you believe that? The weather gods are finally smiling on us for a weekend. It's been a tough April. It looks great for the weekend, and boy, we have some good reports to pass on to you. How about a 4-pound crappie? Well, I heard it was 3 pounds 15 ounces, but hey, come on, let's give him an ounce. A 4-pound crappie caught out at Truman the other day. We got a great photo of this. And speaking of crappie, boy, we've got good reports of all the area lakes, the Ozark lakes. Crappie fishing has really picked up the last few days. And the bass fishing as well. Some spawning activity taking place. Bass fishing is really starting to pick up. So we've got a lot to talk about. Let's get with it.
Fish and Chums!
Well, Tuppy's back with us. He got his summer haircut. He's shivering out here this morning, but we're going fishing as soon as we get done with this report. And boy, we've had good reports. I can't wait to get with this show. You know, the other day I was out with two good friends of mine, Branson musicians, Ashley and Mark, and we caught several fish, but we was back in Long Creek. We was fishing Long Creek at Table Rock, and it looked like it kind of turned over. It was real green and a little slime here and there, but we did pick up several fish. In fact, look at this picture of Ashley and I with this nice crappie and tuppy. The crappie are starting to move, boys. I tell you, Table Rock's looking good. And speaking of good, I want to show you this photo of Tina and Jimmy Maxwell out the other day. Look at this stringer of crappie. Whoa, that'll get you going. Table Rock looks good for the upcoming weekend. Now what's happening at Table Rock, it's kind of mixed reports. A few fish on the banks. You know, the last couple of weeks I've been talking about crappie more in the mid-creek arms, but this last few days we've had more reports of the crappie moving from mid to back into the creek arms. And jigs have been good. A little off color in some of the creek arms, so go to a brighter jig. You know, Bass Pro has a jig out with orange and chartreuse head. I like a 16th ounce and put a chartreuse body on it. That's what worked for us. And so jig fishing can be good. Yes, you may want to tip it with a minnow or just go minnow fishing. I've had some reports of some crappie being caught off the banks a ways, 10, 12, 15 feet of water, just putting a minnow up over just right up over a brush pile. And a few crappie had been caught. If you have a dock that houses some crappie, boy, you might want to fish around some docks as well. So crappie fishing at Table Rock, hey, not too bad, not too bad. Thanks to Ashley and Mark fishing with me the other day. We're going again next week, that's for sure. Tuppy had a good time, yeah. Tuppy got his summer haircut. He's kind of slimmed out there a little bit, but it's going to get warm, Tuppy, don't worry about it. All right, let's go bass fishing at Table Rock. By the way, when we were out at Long Creek the other day, the water temperature when we started was 57 degrees, and by the afternoon when we left, it was up to 61. So it's getting up in that zone, that's for sure. It's coming up there, boys. And bass fishing has really picked up. It's spotty. Some people are having a hard time. Other folks are getting into them. A variety of bait, as I've been talking the last couple of weeks on the program. Bring your tackle box. I had a buddy out the other day, picked up 2 good fish on an umbrella rig, and we've had reports of brown jigs on the secondary points, dragging them off the shallow to about 6, 8, 10 feet of water. And we had some reports on jerk baits. We've had reports on, I tell you what, a white fluke. If you get back in the creek arms and see some shad activity, throw that white fluke. Now, recently I was out and picked up some bass on a 1/4 ounce jig head and using a 4-inch salt and pepper grub. And I tipped that, I mentioned it last week, I tipped that grub tail in some dye, some chartreuse dye. That seemed to help. So you may want to check this out. Few reports on wiggleworts, some crankbaits. Spinner baits are still, if you have some wind, especially up in the creek areas and back up the river arms, don't be afraid to look at that spinner bait as well. Few fish have been caught around the docks on brown jigs. Put a little color on that trailer. The chartreuse, yeah, I think you can catch some fish at the Rock this weekend, that's for sure. Okay, let's go to Taneycomo right quick. They're releasing about, I think maybe 1 unit's on right now. And so the drift fishing has been fair. They've been using night crawlers, drifting a night crawler, And also some of the boys have been using minnows and picked up a few fish, real nice trout this last few days. So you may want to pick up some minnows, drift some minnows or night crawlers. Also power bait. The Berkeley power bait, it seems like white or pink, has been working. Check this out. And if you like to jig fish like old Tuffy and I do, get yourself like a 32nd ounce brown or olive green jig and 2 4-pound tests. Pitch that out. Let it fall, work it in slow. Ooh, you can catch some fish by this method as well. Okay, Stockton's really producing pretty good crappie fishing the last few days. We've had reports of some fish near the bank. Some of the boys are using a float and a little jig, putting the float up maybe a foot, 18 inches up above a jig. It seems like anything with a pink head, chartreuse body is working, and might back off some of the brush piles or off the banks in about 10 to 12 feet of water and try it too. But boy, the crappie fishing has really picked up at Stockton. I think it's going to be a good weekend out there. A few bass have been caught off some of the bluffs and bluff ends on wiggle warts, and some spinnerbait fishing out there, slow rolling. And the walleye are starting to move a little bit at Stockton. Up on some of the points, jig and night crawler combination, try 10, 12, 15, 18 feet of water. So Stockton looks good for the upcoming weekend. And speaking of crappie, we don't talk about the old Pomme too much, but I had some buddies out at Pomme de Terre a couple days ago. They really got into some nice crappie as well near the bank. Don't overlook Pomme. We love Pomme. All right, Truman Lake. Boy, there's been some good fishing. A lot of limits caught out there the last few days. Some people are struggling, but a lot of people are catching fish. I've got to look at this picture. Look at this nearly 4-pound crappie caught. They said it was like 3 pounds 15 ounces. Come on, let's give him an ounce. This was Jay. He was out the other day, and we want to thank Barb. Yeah, McClure. Is that a real name or is that a stage fishing name? I love that name, Barb McClure. And Jay, she furnished this picture, nearly a 4-pound crappie. My golly, I've never caught a 4-pound crappie. I've been blessed, caught several 3s, but boy, 4 pounds. Hey, the 4-pound crappie is few and far in between. Good going, Jay. My golly. Now at Truman, they're catching fish, mid-creek arms, back into the creek arms, and they're using, a lot of boys are using that float and jig combination. They may not be right on the bank, but they're off the bank a little bit, close to the bank, and just flipping that bobber up with that jig, working it real slow. Some people are pitching 16th ounce jigs up there with a little bit of color. It seems like a pink head chartreuse. And then they're easing off along the brush piles and picking up fish at Truman as well. So Truman looks good. Boy, I've had a lot of reports the last few days of limits being caught out there throughout the lake. So just pick your favorite spot, get out there and catch some crappie this weekend at Truman. It's good, I promise you. Bass fishing's been fair at Truman as well. They've been picking up some fish on some crankbaits, wiggle warts, spinner baits, and so the bass fishing has improved. So looks good for Truman. By the way, down below the dam the other day, we had a nice, Chris had this 7.5-pound walleye. Look at this picture. Nice fish, Chris. And there's been some big spoonbill caught at Truman area this last few days. And I tell you what, look at Miss Jones here. Look at this fish she's holding. What a photo. Hey girl, that fish is about twice as big as you are. It went a little over 100 pounds. God bless you, girl. What a fish, my goodness. Whew. Truman looks good for spoonbill fishing, crappie fishing, bass fishing. Hey, get out to Truman this weekend. It's going to be busy out there. Get out there early and get your spot at the boat ramp. Okay, Lake of the Ozarks, we've had good reports of crappie being caught. They're moving to the brush piles, anywhere 6, 8, 10, 12 feet of water. Minnows, jigging minnows have been paying off. We've had some reports of limits being caught there. Don't overlook some of the docks as well at the Lake of the Ozarks. And they've been picking up some fish on wiggle warts, bass wise, and some jerk baits and slow rolling spinner baits. So lake looks pretty good this weekend. Over at Shoals Lake, it's been a little spotty, but the boys have really been catching some nice bass the last few days, and the crappie moved up a little bit as well. So what I'd recommend, a variety of baits, In fact, I think I overlooked this over on Table Rock, but just like Bull Shoals, the Ned rig has been working pretty good. So on slow days, real calm days, don't be afraid to get that Ned rig out there in about 10, 12, 15 foot of water. That might catch a good bass or two. When it's windy, it's been a few spinner baits or catching fish back into the creek arms. Watch for beds, a little activity starting to move. A white fluke could work real good this weekend. And I understand also Carolina rigging can be good off the secondary points. So you may want to check out bass fishing, some jerkbait fishing going on as well. And so just kind of mix it up like Table Rock. Take your tackle box, that's for sure. Some nice bass have been caught out at Bull Shoals the last few days. And with this beautiful weather for the upcoming weekend, who knows? I think it could be real, real good. A few walleye have been caught up on the points and some of the flats. Some of the boys have been going out with night crawlers and drifting to the points and the flats connected with the points, and anywhere from about 10 to 15, 18 feet of water. Crappie is picking up a little bit at Bull Shoals off some of the deep water brush piles. Get out there with your jigs or jigging minnows or just minnows, put them down right on top of the brush piles. And it seems like I've had reports anywhere from 12 to 15, 18 feet of water. Some of these fish could be moving up. Get those jigs up towards that bank and try that a little bit this weekend as well. So Bull Shoals looks pretty good. Get out there and get bit this weekend. Well, that's a pretty good report for you guys. My gosh, it's going to be a great weekend weather-wise. I think it's just going to be a lot of fun to get out this weekend. I want to thank you for being with us. Be sure to like and share. You went down, Tuffy? Okay. Be sure to like and share. We really appreciate that. And be sure to subscribe. We're getting new subscriptions all the time. But don't miss out on all the fun we're going to be having this spring and summer. We'll be giving you some updates. If you subscribe, you won't miss out on anything. Just push that subscription button. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. Helps us out a little bit, okay? Appreciate that. If you have any photos or information, be sure to email us at fishingchums@gmail.com. And we'll see you all next week right here on Fishin' Chums. God bless you all.